Okay, our next speaker is Brian Becker, who is the National Coordinator for Answer Coalition.
Welcome, people, and I want to, like the other speakers, thank the Nation of Islam and the Coalition Against the Bombing of Africa, Libya, for today's event and for the other activities that must be organized in the coming days and weeks so that the American people or the people from the United States or peoples from the United States can say clearly, unmistakably, that the government that speaks in our name uses our tax dollars to buy cruise missiles at the cost of $1.5 million each, and uses those cruise missiles to kill people in Libya, that they do this in our name but without our consent. And so we will be demonstrating, and we hope in large numbers. The December 12th coalition announced the rally tomorrow in New York City. On Saturday, April 16th at 12 noon, people from all over the United States will be gathering in front of the White House to say, stop the bombing of Libya, to hold those who committed this heinous crime against the Libyan people, that they should be held accountable for crimes against humanity and war crimes. This is the third consecutive simultaneous war being conducted by the United States, by the Pentagon, in a Muslim country. As the other speakers have mentioned, Iraq, the invasion of Iraq that began 8 years ago on March 19, 2003, took the lives of 1 million Iraqis. 5 million Iraqis have been made refugees, either 2.5 million who have been driven to camps in Jordan and Syria, or 2 million plus people who have become refugees internally. Iraq, a beautiful, proud nation, a center of the founding of civilization, has been shredded by this invasion. And yet you see George W. Bush and Rumsfeld and Cheney making millions more as they do book tours, explaining to people all over the world and all over the country. Well, not over the world because they're afraid to go outside the boundaries of the United States because there's criminal prosecutions underway in Germany, Spain, Italy, and elsewhere, but all over the United States, selling their book, not held accountable for this great crime, one of the great crimes of the modern era. And we see today in Afghanistan, just last week, 9 boys collecting firewood, slaughtered one by one with Apache attack helicopters. And the next week, another group of villagers bombed by drone aircraft, and a group of 160 killed in Pakistan by drone aircraft operated by CIA agents sitting in their suburban offices in Langley, Virginia, pressing buttons, deciding who will live and who will die, and then going home for the weekend. These are great crimes for which no one has been held accountable. And you know, all of the crimes are committed, as others have said, not to exploit oil or natural gas or land or labor. They're always for a very noble cause, for freedom or democracy or to stop terrorism. I mean, there's a good reason for that. What mother or father would send their sons or daughters to go and fight so that Chevron and ExxonMobil or Chase Bank could get ever richer from the exploitation of people elsewhere? You must give these assignments, these wars, a noble name, new slogans. That's a hallmark of the current era. That's what demarcates this era, say, from the 19th century. You think about the conference that just took place in London, March 29th. The Washington Post said yesterday the world's leaders met and decided that Gaddafi must go. Well, who were those world leaders? The African Union didn't come. All of the African countries, with the exception of Tunisia or Morocco, did not come. Russia wasn't there, China wasn't there, India wasn't there, Pakistan wasn't there, And yet the world's leaders met. And they decided that to protect the civilian population in Libya, Gaddafi must go, and so that the bombing will continue. See, they had to say that it was for a noble cause. Well, there was another conference that took place in Europe about Africa. Wasn't this week or this month or even in the last few years. It was in 1884, the Conference of Berlin. 14 European powers, the emerging capitalist powers of Europe, plus the United States, met in Berlin, and they took the map of Africa, and they drew boundaries on the map of Africa, and they would say, Great Britain, you'll get this, in Italy you'll get this, in Belgium you'll get this, in France you'll get this, in the United States you'll get part of something here and there. And within 18 years, after the 1884 conference in Berlin, 90% of all of Africa was under the colonial domination or zones of control by European powers and the United States. In the 1884 conference, they didn't have to talk about protecting the lives of Africans or the lives of Libyans or the rights of African people or the democratic processes that were so special for Africa. No, in 1884, they could just say that it was for naked colonial ambition to loot and plunder Africa. They weren't worried too much about public opinion in 1884. They could speak bluntly. That's the big difference between 1884, the Conference of Berlin, and the 2011 conference in London. Not the interests. As Viola said, the vital interests. Whose vital interests? The same colonial interests that were existing and paramount and directing the Berlin Conference in 1884 are the same forces, same interests that drive the London Conference in 2011. But they speak about it somewhat differently. They can't speak about Africa or the Middle East or Latin America or Asia as simply a piece of territory to exploit and plunder and loot. Now, there is a problem that we have, and that this coalition has, all of us have, which is that the people of the United States are not able, through the mainstream media, to access any kind of genuine understanding of what's going on in Libya or throughout Africa. There's no possible way for the people to understand. We have, again in Libya, as we did in Iraq and as we have wherever the United States targets a country for bombing, invasion, and occupation, a campaign of demonization, a campaign of wholesale demonization that is reflected in every outlet of the media, every outlet, so that the people of the United States learn about Muammar Gaddafi just as they learned about Saddam Hussein, or just as they learned about Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran in 1953, a democratically elected government, when he nationalized the Anglo-Iranian oil company, now known as BP. The same sort of demonization that took place against that democratically elected government in Iran in 1953 so that they could be overthrown and replaced with the monarchy, the Shah. The people are subject to a campaign of demonization so that they think that Muammar Gaddafi is in fact the devil. They think that Muammar Gaddafi is the worst perpetrator of crimes against humanity as part of a continuum from Hitler or Mussolini or the other great figures of modern times who are identified as fascists or mass murderers. And this campaign of demonization is selective. It's identified only, it's targeting only those who the government decides must fall. And then the population, perhaps they hope, will become passive or acquiescent to the war committed against the demon. So we have a big job in front of us. We have to tell the truth. That seems like an easy job, but it's a difficult job when the mass media of the United States is nothing other than the propaganda vehicle for the war machine, using the methods of demonization 24/7 to convince the population that the war is just and right and designed to help human beings. Well, it's a difficult task, but all forces who believe in justice and believe in peace and believe most of all about self-determination and the right of Libya and Africans and people all over the world to be the masters of their own destiny, they have an obligation to do whatever they can to tell the truth. What should we do first and foremost? We have to be in the streets. We have to be in the streets. We cannot be simply complaining about the situation. We have to go to the people of the United States and say, one, the Libyan people, and only they, should determine their own destiny. That there's no such thing as a peace-loving bomb or a democratic cruise missile. That these missiles cost $1.5 million each. The U.S. government says that we're broke, that teachers have to be laid off, and hospital workers have to be laid off, and public sector workers have to be crushed because there's no money, and yet there's limitless resources to bomb Libya as there is to bomb Afghanistan or to occupy Iraq. We have to tell the people that this is a rich man's war, a colonial war. It's just like the wars and the occupations and the enslavement campaigns of the 19th century. And that we, the people of the United States, have more in common with those Libyans who are resisting U.S. NATO intervention than we do with the perpetrators of the bombing campaign against them. That those people are not our enemy. They're not demons. They are our sisters and brothers. They are like us. They want to feed their families and send their kids to school. They want to be able to live in peace, and they want to be able to determine their own destiny. And we have to spread that message far and wide. I hope all of you will join us tomorrow with the December 12th rally in New York City. We hope everyone will be in the streets coming days and months. This is going to be a long war because the people of Libya are determined to resist. And we hope to see you all Saturday, April 16th in front of the White House. Thank you very much.